Whiteboard Wednesday. I'm going to take a look at the 10 main criteria that we use to calculate the cost of printing your book. And the first is the binding type. Are you going to print a book and bind it in hardback, paperback or wire bound? The main differentiator in cost here is that hardback is more expensive than paperback, the materials we use are more expensive, the process is longer and more complex, and so it adds to the cost. However, this decision is likely to be made up on either preference or out of necessity rather than out of the cost implications. But if you do have a choice and your main criteria is you want to save money, then print in paperback. Number two, if you are printing in paperback, you're going to be deciding between a 250 GSM cover or a 300 GSM cover. The difference is slight. 300 GSM is a bit thicker, gives maybe a better quality feel, but it's not huge. And so again, if you really want to save money, you could afford to go for the 250 GSM and still have a very high quality book. But if the look and feel is the most important factor for you, then go 300 GSM, pay a little bit more, but get the book that you want. Number three, again, this makes a very tiny difference. It's between a matte finish and a gloss finish. I did another video called How Much Does It Cost to Print a Book, in which I put some criteria for an online calculator. And to give you an idea of how small the difference would be, in that video I went for a matte cover. If I had gone for a gloss cover, it would have added 13p to the price of each book. So it's a tiny difference. We're talking pennies. But I don't think it should make up your mind at all. Go for what you prefer. I prefer a matte cover. If you would rather have a gloss finish, if you think it looks better, then go for gloss, because the cost difference is so slight that it really doesn't matter which you go for. Number four, the book size. Again, I won't dwell on this because it's probably going to be out of necessity. If you're printing a novel, you probably won't go for A4. But what's interesting here is most people perceive that if you went for a custom book size, you're going to be paying a premium. Actually, with us, you might pay a little bit more, but actually it's likely to be very similar to our standard book sizes. So it's worth bearing in mind that you can get the exact size that you want without paying a premium. But other than that, general rule, bigger the book, the more expensive it's going to cost to print. Moving on to number five. How many pages are you going to print in your book? Again, you're probably not going to have a lot of sway over this. Your book is as long as it is. Sure, you could reduce the font size to try and get the page number down a little bit, but it's still got to be readable, so you don't even have that much sway there. But as a rule, again, more pages, the more it's going to cost. Number six, do you want to print in black and white or colour? Quite a simple one. Black and white is cheaper than printing in colour. But if you're printing a children's book or a cookery book or a photo book, then you're going to want to print in colour. There is a third option, which is black and white with colour inserts. This is where you print 80% or more of your book in black and white, but have some sections. Maybe you're printing an autobiography and you want it mainly to be plain text, but you want little sections where you have some photo pages. Print those in colour, rest of the book in black and white, and you get your colour photos without paying the premium of going for a full colour book. Number seven, paper stock. People in general make two main mistakes with paper stock. Number one, they go for the lowest paper stock thinking it's going to save them money. And number two is they go for the highest paper stock under the assumption that it's better quality and it's going to look and feel better as a book. Whilst arguably both of those assumptions are correct, it's not wise to make your mind up on paper stock based off of those two elements. Actually, it's quite complex. If you're new to book printing, or even if you're not, it's probably not something you're going to fully understand. It might be something you need advice on. And I can't go through all of the criteria of paper stock in this video. So if you are confused about it, if you do want to know what's going to be best for you and your book, I can only suggest getting in touch. We've got a team of advisors who are really knowledgeable. Tell them what you want, tell them what you're looking for, and they'll help advise you on what paper stock to go for. But yes, a thicker paper stock costs a bit more, but is a better quality. But that doesn't mean that you have to go for the thickest paper stock or the lowest paper stock. It's more complex than that. Number 8, how many copies do you want to print? So the amazing thing with digital printing is you can print a low print run of 20, 30, 50 books without paying a huge cost. If you're printing with a LIFO printer, you'd have to print 5,000, 6,000 copies to really get the cost per unit down. With digital printing, we print books at £2 a unit, £3 a unit, or less even, where we're only printing 15 or 20 books in a print run. So whilst yes, this decision will impact the cost, don't think you have to print a lot more to get the cost down, because you don't. You can print a small print run and keep the cost low. In fact, we advise that you start off with 50 to 100 books and then go for a print on demand option where you print more as you need it, because it's a great way of keeping your costs down. Number 9, not so much about the book itself, but the process of printing, is how are you going to supply your files to us? If you're going to supply a print-ready PDF, all that we have to do it is check it for any glaring mistakes in bleeds or margins and send it straight through the system, straight to print. It's the most cost-effective and easy way to print. However, we understand that you might not know how to format your file for print. You might not even know how to convert it to PDF. Most people don't. We only do because it's what we do. In which case you might want to provide us a Word document or a PDF which needs some work. And that's fine, but it will cost a little bit more. But that's probably unavoidable. And when I say a little bit more, chances are it's not going to cost a lot more. So don't worry about that too much. It's not really an area that you can manipulate or that you can alter in order to get the cost down. It's just worth bearing in mind that if your file isn't ready for print and we have to do some work to it, it will add a little bit onto the cost of printing your books. Number 10, how do you want your proof? The cheapest way here, if you really wanted to save some money, would be just to go for an online PDF proof. But the issue there is you don't get to see the final product, and you might get some surprises when you do get your final product. So we always recommend going for a bound proof, a physical bound proof, so you can see exactly what your print's going to look like when we come to printing. And that does add a bit of cost, but this is an area where I'd say, it's only going to add a few pounds and it's more than worth it. You don't want to get an online proof, then when it comes to getting your order, you see that actually the colour in the cover is a little bit different because maybe your resolution on your computer is a little bit different to ours, and so the colour shows up a little bit differently. You don't want any surprises like that. So avoid all of those surprises, go for a bound proof, even though it means spending a little bit more. It's more than worth it. So I hope that looking through these has helped you get your head around a little bit how we calculate the cost of printing your book. Maybe you've seen some areas where you think, oh, I could save a bit of money there, or I need to pay a bit more there for the better quality book. If you do have any questions still, you can email us, we reply for social media, or give us a call, give one of our team a call on 01733 898 102. They're very knowledgeable and they'll help you maybe make your mind up on some of these decisions that you've not quite decided what you're going to go for yet. Hello, welcome to Whiteboard Wednesday. We get a lot of people coming to us asking if we offer cheap book printing, saying that that's what they're looking for. They want cheap book printing, and can they get it with us? And the answer really is no, we don't offer cheap book printing. We do offer cost-effective book printing. We keep our prices low, but we don't sacrifice on quality and we don't sacrifice on customer service. Because when you opt for a cheap book printing company, that's often what you'll find. You'll find that you're sacrificing somewhere in order to get the prices as low as you can. And that might be okay with you, but in our experience, most people that come asking for cheap book printing, really they're asking for reasonable, they're asking for cost-effective book printing. And there's a number of ways that cheap book printing might mean you're sacrificing. You could be sacrificing on paper quality, maybe on customer service, maybe on the binding quality. The glue that we use is quite expensive, so a company might use cheaper glue or an alternative that results in a poor binding quality but a cheaper price. And they might outsource their print, which there's nothing wrong with that. Hundreds of companies do it. A lot of companies just print with someone just down the road or in a town next door because they don't have the infrastructure or the machinery or the staff to cope with all the print they're getting, so they have to outsource it to another company. Some companies outsource further afield in mainland Europe or even further. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy with that, then in essence that's not an issue. The issue arises when companies use it as a means of getting their printing cheaper, because again then they might be sacrificing some of these things, but more often than not what it means is that you're going to be waiting a lot longer to actually get your books. The logistics involved in printing overseas can be quite complex, and we know of companies, or we've heard from people who have printed companies and said that it's taken 7, 8, 9 weeks to get their book printed. And again, you might not have an issue with that. Maybe you've got plenty of time, you're printing well in advance, but a lot of people we work with say that's too long. They want their books in 4 weeks or less, and so they're not willing to wait that long for their books, and it's a risk you're willing to take, or a risk you're going to have to take if you opt into print with a cheap book printing company. But again, I don't believe that's what people are looking for. When they come looking for cheap book printing, I think they're looking for cost-effective book printing. And so what does that mean? It means that the prices are low, but you're not sacrificing. You're not sacrificing quality, you're not sacrificing customer service, and you're not sacrificing anything involved with the print. So how do you find a cost-effective book printing company? It takes research. It takes quite a lot of research. But that's okay. We're living in a world with the world of the internet where research is a lot simpler now than it used to be. The first thing you need to do is to get some quotes. And I mean, I think of 10 to 15 companies in the UK that have online price calculators. So just have a Google, put your requirements through the calculators, and find out the price points. At this point, you're probably going to be able to discard 50% of them immediately because they're far too expensive. And that's fine, that's okay, because price is always a very important factor when it comes to printing. Secondly, get a sample pack. Most companies do it, 90% plus companies will offer a free sample pack. You can have an example of their printing in your hands, check the binding, check the paper, make sure that it's the quality you would expect for your book. And lastly, get some evidence. We have a Trustpilot account where our customers can go on and leave independent reviews of our quality and of our service. And it's so valuable for you as a potential book printer, because yeah, we can tell you that our quality is great, we can say our customer service team are fantastic, and they are, but it doesn't mean a lot coming from us. You need to get third-party reviews from review sites like Trustpilot, or go on a forum, put the question out there. There are lots of book printing or printing forums in the UK. Go on a few and ask, has anyone ever printed with this company? Has anyone ever printed a hardback book with Book Printing UK? How did it go? Have you ever printed paperback, a children's book with Book Printing UK? What was the quality like? What was the service like? And get opinions, get second opinions from other people, because you don't just want to accept a cheap book printing company. You really want a cost-effective book printers. They're going to guarantee quality and they're going to have the service to help you through the entire process of printing your book. Thank you for watching.